Have you ever walked into a room, like let's say a cafeteria, a living room, a boardroom, and maybe no one's saying anything in the room, but as you step in, it just feels like you could cut the tension in the room with a knife? That sort of feeling of unspoken tension is caused from emotions like anxiety, frustration, judgment, that are transmitted and can be picked up on by others, even when we're not verbally speaking it. And this creates some sort of invisible energy barrier that makes it hard to connect with people, especially when conversations are already difficult to begin with. So in this video, we're going to explore how your energy directly influences your ability to connect with others. And you'll get some practical tips and tricks that you can use to navigate more difficult conversations with greater ease. By the end of this video, you'll learn the science behind that invisible energy barrier, how to prepare for difficult conversations, and a simple technique that you can use anytime, anywhere, to build deeper trust and meaningful connections with others, especially in those challenging moments. Our emotions don't just impact ourselves, they're felt by those around us, just like that example of walking into a room with all that tension. Doc Childrey, the founder of the HeartMath Institute, explains that our thoughts, attitudes, and emotions affect the heart's magnetic field, which energetically affects others both positively or negatively. And the kicker is whether or not we're aware of it. And you've probably felt this before. Like, think of a person in your life that you just connect with instantly. Maybe you love spending time with them. Here's why that is. Research shows that when someone is in what's called a coherent state, a state in which their heart, their mind, and emotions are all aligned and in sync, their heart radiates out a measurably more coherent signature into the electromagnetic environment, into the field that can uplift others. It can uplift other humans, other pets, and research shows the actual vibration of the earth itself. On the flip side, though, when we're in a state of incoherence, when our heart, mind, and emotions are not in sync, like when we're stressed or frustrated or anxious, we can radiate that tension, which can impact people around us. Like, think of the last time where you were able to pick up on someone's quote-unquote bad vibes, like when they were stressed or upset or anxious. Maybe they haven't even said a word, but as soon as they enter the room, that energy is palpable. It's like oozing out of them. And that could set the tone for the rest of the conversation or interaction. You can feel that sort of energy. There's a really powerful study that demonstrated the difference between a coherent atmosphere and an incoherent atmosphere. In this study, there were 4 participants. Each of the participants sat around a table and were hooked up to a sensor that measures their heart rate variability, which is an indicator of someone's levels of coherence. Are they coherent? Are they aligned? Are they incoherent? Are they stressed? Are they frustrated? Are they anxious? 3 of the participants of the 4 were trained in coherence building techniques, one of which you'll learn very soon. And they were asked to shift in and out of a coherent state as they were sitting around this table. Now, the 4th person that was sitting there had literally no idea what was happening. They had no knowledge of the study. They were just left uninformed. They thought they were just sitting around a table. And now you may guess what happened, right? Here's where it really gets interesting. Whenever the trained participants shifted into a coherent state, guess what happened to that 4th person? Their coherence levels rose as well, despite having literally no idea what was happening. And this experiment was replicated many times in many different institutions, and it reveals an essential truth, that your state, our states, influence those around us, whether we're aware of it or not. When we radiate calm, balanced, grounded energy, we can help others feel even more centered and open. We can help facilitate that in others. So now, how does this apply to navigating difficult conversations? Well, think about approaching a difficult or complicated conversation from a very stressed, depleted, high-strung state. How do you think the other person picks up on your energy? They may unconsciously pick up on those feelings, even if you try and play it cool, which can lead to a sense of defensiveness from them, probably miscommunication between the two of you, and a sense of judgment that can go both ways. But in contrast, if we approach that same conversation from a place of curiosity, place of openness, respect, or maybe even appreciation, like finding something to appreciate in that moment, even if it can't be that person specifically. If it can be like, I appreciate that this person showed up today. When that happens, when we can find that energy authentically, then we're far more likely to co-create a positive win-win outcome. I'll give you an example. A CEO client of mine shared an awareness that he got about how his energy directly influences his team, specifically during meetings. He told me that when he enters the room feeling stressed, high-strung, incoherent, maybe something happened that morning, he was stuck in traffic, the kids were late to school, the room literally felt tense. What happened to the team? They struggled to find a solution, and there was more arguments between the team. But once we started working together to build his coherence level, he noticed that when he enters the room from that place, that calm, centered energy, that mindset, the difference was remarkable. It was astounding. Creativity began to flow. The team felt inspired and energized after the meeting. And of course, the bottom line was thriving. And this isn't just limited to CEOs or boardrooms. It applies to any relationship, and it applies to you. If a colleague of yours, a child, a friend, a partner is having a really difficult day, one of the most impactful things you can do is maintain your own coherence, radiating emotions like acceptance, appreciation, care, or calm. That sort of grounded energy coming from you can then help them stabilize their own emotions, helping them feel even more balanced and more open to connection, more open to conversation. And that oftentimes is even more powerful than trying to talk someone out of something or practicing empathy by feeling their emotions, because then we're lowering our vibration. We've got to make sure to send them that coherent care so that can uplift their own energy if they choose to join you. So now let's take a look at a tool called the coherent communication technique that's designed to create a deeper sense of understanding between the speaker and the listener. This technique has only 3 steps. It's so simple and it's so powerful, and it builds on your own coherence practice. In fact, step 1 is actually just all about you, to ensure that you're listening and speaking from that coherent, aligned place. So here's how it works. Step 1 is literally to get coherent. So before you start the conversation, if possible, get into that coherent state. You can do that by taking a few deep breaths in and out of your heart, by focusing on the feeling of someone, something, someplace that makes you feel really good. You can do that by moving your body, doing yoga, going outside, listening to music. Whatever it is, get yourself into that coherent state first. And I'll link some meditations down in the description box below that you can practice to get you into that coherent state. Then, and only then, can you focus on others. So once you're coherent, step 2 is to listen to the essence of what the person is saying. And this is oftentimes easier said than done. It's a practice, like riding a bike. When you listen to the essence, it means zooming out from the words that someone's saying and tuning into the unspoken energy or feelings that they're conveying. It also means listening to be present, not listening to respond or react or make sure you lash back and, get defensive about a certain point that they said that was wrong. It means staying open, it's staying coherent, putting yourself in their shoes, being curious, and listening to anything, right? Their posture, their energy, their emotions, the beliefs that they're sharing as they're talking. This step is really all about just being curious. So to recap, you're not planning your response when you're listening to the essence, you're listening deeply. You're trying to understand the real meaning behind their words. Now, step 3 is to confirm the essence of what you heard. So you want to rephrase what you've heard to ensure that there is a sense of mutual understanding. For example, you could say something like, "It sounds like you're feeling really fearful about this upcoming situation. Did I get that right?" and then stop and wait to hear from them. What this does is it prevents any miscommunication, and it allows you to evoke that you value their perspective, that you want to make sure that they feel heard. And from that place, no matter how difficult the conversation is, the other party or parties will be more likely to reciprocate because you're coming from that grounded, curious place and setting the environment, the field for them to be able to reciprocate in that same way. Now, the cool thing about this technique is that it doesn't necessarily replace other communication skills you may have learned. It actually serves more as a complement because it's less about what you say, it's less about the words, and it's more about tuning into the unspoken energy. In fact, research shows that words are only about 7% of communication, and people focus a lot more on body posture, tone of voice, and most of all, the unspoken energy that we're bringing into the environment, into the interaction. So you can use this technique as almost like a little pause button before responding to an email or a text message. It's like taking a moment to click pause, get coherent, and ensure that your words reflect the clarity, respect, and alignment that you intend to convey. Effective preparation in advance can really set the stage for a successful conversation and even deeper connection with others. So here are some guiding questions that you can ask yourself before entering a challenging discussion or conversation to really make sure that you're aligned and you're prepared, both strategically, practically, and also on an energetic and emotional level. So the first question you could ask, and respond as it applies to you, of course, is what's causing this person to behave in this way? Question number 2 is, how would I behave if I were them? Question 3 is, how do my actions affect their feelings? Question number 4 is, how can I show compassion to make sure that we stay on the same side? And finally, the final 5th question is, how can I be a force for good in this conversation? So really taking the time to consider your responses to these questions can help you ground yourself in empathy and openness. It kind of takes our horse blinders off for a little moment, and it allows us to enter a conversation from a more expanded place of collaboration, understanding, and really trying to find the most integral solution that not only benefits us or our direct people, but also the other person and potentially the community and world at large as well. It's about thinking from a more expanded perspective. That could be a potential win-win for everyone. Now, the thing about coherence and what you're learning today is that it's not just limited to difficult conversation. In our daily interactions, you can use these tools and these questions to really transform your connections with others. It helps to reduce tension and create a very positive environment, a more harmonious environment. So, for example, there were studies of people who actually took that coherent communication technique back into the workplace. And they found that while, teams that were able to implement these tools were able to shorten their meeting times. It led to less miscommunication because, of course, they're confirming the essence of what they heard with others. There's way less drama, less stress, less energy loss because people are coherent. And it ultimately fosters mutual respect for everyone in the room, and it starts with ourselves. So to bring it all together, navigating difficult conversations with ease is only possible when you yourself are coherent. The thing is that deeper connection with others actually starts with you, by you managing your own energy so that you can show up even more aligned with others. So next time you're about to face a challenging conversation or just any conversation at all, remember to take a moment to pause, center yourself, however you know how. Again, I'll link some links in the description box below with some guided processes to do that. But get coherent and approach that interaction with curiosity and openness. With this sort of approach, even the toughest, most difficult, challenging conversations can become opportunities. They can become little seeds, little potentials for growth within ourselves, within others, for empathy, and for meaningful connection. And it starts with you.